With so much dangerous activity happening today, the people in charge have got to be protected. The only way to avoid total chaos is to make sure our government officials and our resources are out of harm's way. The steps taken to ensure this might seem a little extreme, but they're definitely worth it. There's no getting past these security features, so stick with us here at the Hub to see the most heavily guarded government locations. Before we check out how tough these locations are, click to subscribe to our channel and turn on the alerts. It's the best way to guard against boring videos. Fort Knox. In the United States, one of the most important things we have to protect is our wealth. The economy always has a way of going up and down, but one valuable piece of metal seems to always increase in value, and that metal is called gold. Fort Knox is a U.S. command post in Kentucky that is home of the Bullion Depository. They're in charge of protecting this valuable American asset. And get this, according to the U.S. Mint, there are over 147 million ounces being stored there. To put that in perspective, with the current price of gold, there's almost $200 billion inside. So it only makes sense that this location is intensely guarded. For starters, there's a solid granite wall perimeter. They also have soldiers on the ground. The guards are armed with machine guns and other heavy-duty weaponry. But the icing on top of the cake is the 22-ton vault blast door. Even if you got that far, it requires a team of people to unlock, and not just you and a few buddies could do it. You would need 10 highly trained people. So, if you had plans to grab gold in the future, maybe stick with necklaces from the mall. The White House. If you're from the United States, it's probably no surprise to see the White House on this list. In charge of housing and protecting the president, the White House is known to be one of the most heavily guarded locations in the world. For a start, in the surrounding area, the sidewalks are blocked off and there are walls separating you from the property. If you made it past that, you'd have to deal with hundreds of highly trained Secret Service agents. And that isn't even mentioning the amount of sensors and alarms on the property. The bulletproof glass would prevent anything coming through the windows, and the snipers on top of the building would likely catch anybody before they had a chance. And if you tried getting through via a plane or drone, you'd be out of luck too. There are no-fly zones and laser weapons in place to ensure that isn't possible. Even with all these intense security features, the White House still has an underground bunker as a failsafe. When you factor in Air Force One, people screenings, the food tasters, and every other detail, it's clear that the President of the United States is probably the most heavily protected person in the world. Area 51. Gold, the president, and now aliens? There have been many rumors about the famous Area 51 over the years, mainly that it's a secret hiding place for a crashed UFO, advanced technology, or the body of an alien. The sad truth is, we don't have any official way of finding out. The only people who really know the truth are in the military inner circle, and they aren't talking. What makes Area 51 so heavily guarded are its many layers of protection. First of all is its location. It lies in Nevada, essentially surrounded by wildlife and desert in every direction, so nobody is going to sneak up on the facility. Next, there are sensors posted all around that can detect humans. Interestingly enough, there are some theories that they can detect the difference between humans and animals. Some say that the sensors can distinguish this by scent. If somebody managed to get by the sensors, they would be met with a civilian force known as the Camo Dudes, who alert the authorities when anyone comes snooping. After this, there are signs warning of deadly force to anybody who proceeds. If you somehow decide to keep going, you'll be met with a full force of the United States military. And trust us when we say that that would be a huge mistake for you. Cheyenne Mountain Complex. The next location on our list takes being guarded to a whole new level. While other places may build defenses and add weapons to their security, this location uses a natural geographic spot to its advantage. Sure, it has weapons too, but it also uses the Cheyenne Mountain to contain itself. Located at Colorado Springs, this facility goes above and beyond when it comes to protection. It's a government bunker shielded by over 2,500 feet of granite. Its main reason for being built was the Cold War. Back in the 1960s, there was a real threat of nuclear attack by the Soviet Union. To combat this threat, government officials built the Cheyenne Mountain Complex with the purpose of surviving a nuclear bomb blast. Miners actually had to remove around 693,000 tons of granite to build the facility. There's hallways of winding tunnels that lead to the protected areas below. But before you can get there, you need to get by the 25-ton door blocking the way, and that's no easy task. Normally, one door is left open because of the sheer size and intricacy of the entrance. The last time both were closed to protect the government officials within was during the events of 9/11. That goes to show you how serious this government location really is. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York. We know that the United States can sometimes be obsessed with wealth and money. Many times, US citizens want to make sure that their money is more protected than their home. And that's where the next location comes in, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. This bank is the most active and the largest of the Federal Reserve banks, so that means it's definitely locked down tight. And there's over 6,700 tons of gold bars inside as well. Not too shabby. The only entrance into this gold storing vault is a 90-ton, 9-foot tall cylinder made from steel. It sits inside a steel and concrete frame that is airtight. Once it's closed, steel rods lock inside holes and timers are set that can't be unlocked until the next day. There's also 24-hour surveillance of the area, including security cameras and motion sensors. And if you don't trust the technology to protect the gold, there's also an armed Federal Reserve police force constantly on duty. At the end of the day, there's no known way to penetrate the interior without being found out immediately. The United States is definitely willing to do anything to protect its gold. The Korean Demilitarized Zone. Now let's jump from protecting wealth to protecting borders. And this time, it's not about the United States. It's actually the border between North and South Korea. The Korean Demilitarized Zone is a strip of land that runs across the Korean peninsula. It was created in 1953 and has had its fair share of dangerous issues. With tensions between the two states always running high, there have been many deaths reported, and that applies to both the military and civilians. There are guard posts and checkpoint buildings everywhere, all designed to keep the other side out. The North Korean side has a purpose of preventing its citizens from defecting to South Korea. There are thousands of artillery pieces as well, and it's estimated that 60% of North Korea's total artillery is in the demilitarized zone. But the threat of violence isn't the only security feature. Up until 2004, both sides had loudspeakers blasting propaganda to the other side in an attempt to weaken them. After North Korea was apparently able to successfully test a hydrogen bomb, South Korea resumed its loudspeaker broadcasts. The two sides have been sparring for years, and it's likely only a matter of time before more violence occurs. The Greenbrier Bunker. As we mentioned earlier, the threat of nuclear war has been around for years, and there were actually entire industries that existed to ease the minds of Americans in case of a warhead disaster. All over the country, bunkers began to pop up during the Cold War. Some families were able to afford their own bunkers, and some were not. A scary thought, but you know if wealth was involved, then the government had their own heavy-duty bunkers to use too. The bunker at Greenbrier, West Virginia was built in 1958 and was created in secrecy right underneath a luxury hotel. It was able to be heavily guarded by the use of secrecy. It hid in plain sight for years. At over 120,000 square feet, this bunker was maintained for years without anyone in the area knowing why. But after some investigating, the truth came out in the 1990s. The bunker was made to protect the members of the United States government. A few things really should have tipped the townspeople off, however. For example, there was a huge 7,000-foot plane landing strip and a city of 3,000 people. It's said that the massive Greenbrier bunker isn't used today, but it has to go down as one of the most uniquely guarded government locations ever. Bank of England Gold Vault. It looks like the United States isn't the only place serious about guarding their gold. In the United Kingdom, the Bank of England is one of the most big and powerful institutions around. It does a lot. It settles interest rates, issues banknotes, and maintains confidence in British currency. And don't forget the reason why it's so protected. It holds one of the biggest amounts of gold in the world. And yes, many of these gold bars are being held for the UK government. The total amount isn't exactly known, but we do know that the value is over 200 billion. The gold is spread out over 2 floors and is a truly massive facility. The security measures used for this vault are a mix of old school and new, making it incredibly secure. For example, an old method they use is a series of 3-foot-long keys. Those wouldn't be too fun to carry around. They also use an electronic method where visitors must speak a password into a microphone to access the vault. There's only a select few voice patterns saved in the system, so if it doesn't recognize your voice, you will be locked out. The 1960s Bar. Let's stick with the United Kingdom and look into another relic of the Cold War. As you may be familiar, the threat of nuclear annihilation wasn't only between the Soviet Union and the USA. Many other countries feared they could be targeted or accidentally be attacked in the event of a nuclear bomb explosion. So, when the British Ministry of Defense acknowledged the Burlington bunker on its website in 2004, it wasn't a surprise. The inclusion of the 1960s bar, however, was an interesting addition. It was closely kept secret for over 40 years and was well prepared for an all-out war. This bar inside the bunker exists under the English town of Corsham and is set inside of a 240-acre abandoned quarry. The underground fortress was able to hold around 4,000 members of the government, but not their families. It's pretty sad that with the amount of space they had, they decided to include a pub. And it's said to be still maintained by a small number of staff today. If you're lucky enough to be a government official there, you should feel safe knowing that above this watering hole is a protective layer of 100 feet of concrete. The Doomsday Seed Vault. The last government location on our list isn't designed to save the elite members of society or gold bars. It exists to save the world. Finally, a government facility making a positive impact. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault is a seed bank on the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen, which is about 800 miles from the North Pole. This location was originally picked because it had no tectonic activity, and it has permafrost, which helps preserve the seeds. The island's main purpose is to house a variety of plant seeds from all over the globe in the event of a worldwide disaster. The seed bank was built into the side of a mountain made of sandstone and has a security system that would put a lot of locations on this list to shame. This is very important as the survival of the human race is on the line. It's currently being used to replenish seed gene banks due to accidents, but its security is up to date in case something goes majorly wrong. It's reassuring that the plant life on Earth would be protected in the event of a disaster. Maybe other countries on this list should move some of their security off of gold bars and into this government location. Well, that's the end of our video on heavily guarded government locations. Thanks for watching with us at the Hub, and be sure and check out more of our videos. We promise there's nothing guarding them. Bye!